16 steps to abolish the Federal Reserve by the number one person that's ever put a plan together, G. Edward Griffin. There's only 3 steps in the sound money solution. And the way that you can privatize your own banking system, there's only one way to do this. And it's IBC. All right, so I want to reiterate our vision and everything that we do, right? So when I read this book, The Creature from Jekyll Island, I'm glad that you picked this book, because the reason that I do IBC is because of this book. It is not because I want to make a lot of money. It is not because I like life insurance. It is not because I had a family member die. It is not because my grandma or grandpa, which is true actually, my grandma and grandpa were jumping from nursing home to nursing home to nursing home, and it sucked. It's not for any of those purposes. The reason I do IBC is because it is the cure to this problem. And this problem is deeply ingrained in how I feel and how I think about the world. Right? I just want to read for you guys. This is right before those pages. This is the whole purpose, and let's say we talked about that, the fact that we're giving away our power to people, right? This is a realistic scenario, right, for being able to solve the situation, right? Here's what a plan, here's G. Edward Griffin, his plan to abolish the Fed. I'm just going to keep reading a little bit. Is that okay? I want you to feel the reason why I do this. All that would be required to abolish the Federal Reserve is an act of Congress consisting of one sentence. The Federal Reserve Act and all of its amendments are hereby rescinded. But that would wipe out our monetary system overnight and create such a havoc in the economy that would play right into the hands of the global elites. They would use the resulting chaos as evidence that such a move is a mistake, and the American people would likely come to the rescue from the IMF, which is the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank. Okay, this is the United Nations banking system. Okay, we would find ourselves back in a pessimistic scenario, even though we had done the right thing. There are certain steps we must proceed the abandonment of the Fed if we were going to have a safe passage. The first step is to convert our present fiat money, which means what?
US dollars.
Yeah, but what's fiat currency mean?
It's backed by nothing.
Backed by nothing into real money. What's the definition of real money?
Gold.
Backed by gold or silver or something.
Gold.
That means we must create an entirely new money supply, which is 100% backed by precious metal. To do that, we must establish the true value of our present money so it can be exchanged for money on a realistic basis and phased out in circulation. Here's how it can be done. Okay, now I just want to, this is 16 steps to abolish the Federal Reserve by the number one person that's ever put a plan together, G. Edward Griffin. Okay, and then after, while you're thinking about this, I want you to think about the realistic nature of it. Okay, so while you're thinking, I want you to think about, on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being there's no way this would ever happen, to 10 being like we can do this tomorrow. I want you to think about it from that perspective. Number 1, repeal the legal tender laws, which means that Federal Reserve notes, which are dollar bills, are no longer legal tender for the United States. Number 2 is freeze the present supply of Federal Reserve notes, which means stop printing money. Number 3, define the real dollar in terms of precious metal, preferably in silver. Establish gold as an auxiliary monetary reserve. Restore free coinage at the U.S. Mint and issue silver dollars and gold pieces. Number 6, pay off the national debt with Federal Reserve notes. That means they'd print $35.5 trillion and then pay off the national debt to every country they owe money to. Number 7, pledge the government's hoard of gold and silver, which means that they have to hoard gold and silver to back up the currency. Number 9 is determine the number of all the Federal Reserve notes in circulation, which means they have to count all the dollar bills, which means they're going to require everybody to hand in dollar bills, which is what they did in 1928. Retire all Federal Reserve notes from circulation, which means stop all dollar bills, right? Exchange them for dollars at a calculated ratio. Number 11, convert all contracts based on Federal Reserve notes to dollars using an exchange ratio, which means that every contract that you have to pay a mortgage and $3,000 a month using dollar bills, they would convert it, and now you have to pay $2,000 worth of gold instead. All right, this is what you'd have to do. Issue silver certificates instead of dollars. Abolish the Federal Reserve System. Introduce free banking, which means that people can print their own dollars and utilize it for currency if people agree to it. Number 15 is reduce the size and the scope of the government. For purpose would only be to protect the life, liberty, and prosperity of the people. And number 16 is restore national independence. Get us out of the United Nations and the United Nations out of the U.S., and then abolish the United Nations. That's his plan. On a scale of 1 to 10, just call out a number. How realistic do you think that is?
1. 0.
Yeah, 1 and 0, right? I would love to do that. It's just hard to do, right? In summary, you have to collect all the dollars, convert all the dollars back to gold or silver, reissue real dollars backed by gold and silver, convert every contract, every lease agreement, every mortgage payment, every car payment, every credit card statement, every single agreement, every life insurance contract would be converted from Federal Reserve notes, which is what a dollar bill really is, to a new currency backed by gold and silver, and then abolish the Federal Reserve, get the U.S. out of the United Nations, which makes absolutely no sense because the United States, right? What do we live in? Florida is a
State.
and the U.S. is a
Country.
and what's another word for country?
Nation.
And the United States was the
Nation.
test. The United Nations was the test. The United States is the test for the United Nations. Okay, so that we can create
One world government.
the New World Order and have one world government and one world. You know that they just. Can I go down the rabbit hole for a second?
Yes.
You know that they already have the Trilateral Commission. The Trilateral Commission basically says that the U.S. is in charge of all of the Americas, North, Central, and South. They already have Russia is in charge of, it's called Eurasia, which is a combination of Europe and Asia. And then they have China is in charge of Asiana or something like that, which is all of the rest of Asia. And really, at this point right now, the U.S., Russia, and China, despite what you think on the news about how they fight with each other, they actually work together. So right now, the U.S. runs this whole part. Tri means what? 3. 1, 2, 3. Right? So all of this situation, even though they make it appear that the U.S., Russia, and China are fighting against each other, they're actually working together to move it from, how many countries do we have? Like 179 countries, I believe, or something like that. Huh?
They want 3.
They want, well, there are 3 regions, and then they want it to come down to 1. So there will be 1 government, 1 language, 1 currency, 1 everything. That's the goal, because then they can control not just the U.S., not just Russia, not just China, but they can control the whole world, right? And so when you read the case for IBC, the whole purpose for IBC, and the reason that I care about this is because this is a fact. Whether you know about it or not, it's a fact. Okay? Whether you know about it or not, this is a fact. And so this whole purpose is by selecting and training the proper financial professionals to join the ranks of an authorized IBC practitioner, we can build the 10%, which is the tipping point that is required to change public opinion. So in the IBC practitioner course, they call it the Sound Money Solution. And the Sound Money Solution is... Here's the Sound Money Solution is basically a summarized version of what G. Edward Griffin says, which he says that you have to do, that they say there's only 3 steps in the Sound Money Solution. Number 1 is to tie the dollar back to gold. Number 2 is to privatize money and banking.
And that would be life insurance policy.
Hold on. And number 3 would be to end Fed. This is called the sound money solution. And the whole purpose of IBC that Nelson Nash the whole mission behind it is that instead of doing all the things that G. Edward Griffin has said you have to do, like you don't have to do any of that stuff. It's very, very hard to tie the dollar back to gold. This and this have to happen in Congress. This and this have to happen through laws that are passed. We have to repeal the dollar bill. We have to collect it. We got to tie it back to gold. We have to basically undo everything that they have already done since 1933. And it's not going to happen unless we have a real revolution, which I'm all down for if you don't know me already. Okay? However, this is something that you can do today that can start making this happen for every American family and business owner. It's by teaching them, hey, I would love to end the Federal Reserve. I would love to tie the dollar back to gold. But that's going to take maybe 50 to 100 years of riots and protests. And just like the stamp, remember the Stamp Act in 1754? You guys remember that, right? Remember that when that happened, right? Or the Boston Tea Party, right? What happened in the Boston Tea Party? They dumped all their tea in the harbor because they were doing what to the tea? They were taxing it. So we would have to refuse as Americans to stop paying sales tax, to stop paying income tax, which is actually unconstitutional. And everybody that works at the IRS doesn't pay sales tax if you do. I mean, doesn't pay income tax if you didn't know. Okay? Yep, because they know that it's unconstitutional and it's unlawful for you to go to jail for not paying federal income tax. Just FYI. Okay? But to be able to do these two things are very challenging. This is something that you can do now. And the way that you privatize banking is to how privatized banking really works. And you start understanding money. And the way that you can privatize your own banking system, there's only one way to do this. And it's IBC. I just want you to understand the purpose. Now, if we have Carlos Lara and David Stearns and Robert Murphy and Nelson Nash, they say that the purpose of this, if we can get 10% of Americans, it doesn't say wealthy business owners, it doesn't say real estate investors, it says Americans. There's 35 million by 2030. We're projected to have a population of about 350 million. So we need 35 million families or people, 35 million people to utilize IBC as a privatized banking system. That's the mission of IBC, of the Nelson Nash Institute. Now, I believe that we, as Infinite Capital Solutions, can move faster, do more, and become bigger than the Nelson Nash Institute itself, more than the other IBC practitioners. Most IBC practitioners are individual people, whether they're with their spouses or not. They sit at home and they're independent contractors doing this business. We're on a mission to create a company that revolves around this mission. Does that make sense? Right. So when I'm reading this book, Beyond Entrepreneurship by Jim Collins, again, it's Reed Hastings, who's the CEO or was the CEO of Netflix. There's two situations here. There's the mission, which is something that you can do in 10 to 25 years, which would be to build the 10%. And it really is have to be an army. Like, it's not about how wealthy the people are. I want you to, it doesn't matter how wealthy they are. No, it's ideally, when somebody says, what's your ideal client? You should say wealthy business owners and real estate investors. Like, that's your ideal client. But if somebody comes to you and they say, Josh, I've read Creature from Jekyll Island. I care about IBC. I've read the book and I got $1,000 a year. You do it with an $83 a month whole life policy. You do it that way.
That's the minimum, 83.
No, the minimum is $25,000 for a standard policy and $50,000 per preferred or select. Okay, of death benefit. Of death benefit for One America, and every carrier is a little different. Asterisk. That's my disclaimer. Okay, but the point is that no matter what, that you need more people to practice the process, not to buy life insurance. And I want to re-engineer your minds over the next 90 days for the rest of the year. The purpose is, I know we have to pay our bills. I have to pay my bills. I need to turn the lights on. I need to help you all make money. I know that. I know we're here to make money. I know whether you're on Zoom or in person, whether it's your first day or you were our first person here, it is important for you to be able to pay your bills, make money, and live a good life. I got that. But our mission and our purpose on top of that is to build the 10%. It is not just for us to live a good life. That is part of it. But the bigger mission is that we can help advance this part of repealing all of these situations, of abolishing the Federal Reserve one family at a time, one business owner, because a business owner has a family, right? A business owner is a person at the end of the day. So it's really one person at a time. Now, this is our mission, is to build the 10%. And I'm telling you that David Stearns, who is Nelson Nash's son-in-law, knows that we're carrying the torch for that. Like, that is what we're here for. And we will make a lot of money in the process. You will collect income because you are providing value and service to society. How valuable is it to help America break free of the Federal Reserve System and the banking system? On a scale of 1 to 10, how valuable is that?
Invaluable.
Very valuable, invaluable, right? Because think about all of the other, again, here's another thing these are just history repeats itself, right? So when you read The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio, you realize that this has happened over and over again. Where we're at right now is where Amsterdam was in 1500, and they fell. Where we're at right now is where Rome was before 500 BC, and they fell because Julius Caesar printed money and clipped all the gold coins so that he could make more money off the money and scammed the people of Rome, right? You'll realize that this is what the United Kingdom did, when England did when they fell to the United States, and it's what the United States is doing right now when we're going to fall to China. And I'm not here to be a pessimist. I'm just stating facts, and this is important for us to start reclaiming control over our finances and help other people do it. And if it's invaluable, if it's very valuable, that means that, and money, as Jim Rohn says, money is in direct correlation with the value that you bring to society. So if every day you go out there and you realize that you're bringing value to the society of America to break 10% of the population free of the Federal Reserve and the banking system, how much value are you going to receive? A lot of value, because you're bringing a lot of value, and so you'll receive a lot of value. And that's the mission and the purpose of what people get started with this on. That's what IBC is all about. It's not about selling big premium policies. That happens as a result of this mission. Does that make sense?
Yep.
The next part is your purpose. The purpose is something that might take 100+ years to create. And that purpose is the sound money solution, right? Which that sounds boring, but you can call it revolutionize the financial system, revolutionize the banking system. Like, I don't know if this is going to happen in our lifetime, but I don't care whether it does or not, because who's going to be available in the next lifetime? Our kids, our grandkids. You need to carry out this vision. Yes, you have to think like that, like a forester. Where's that come from? Comes from becoming your own banker. You have to think generations ahead. Steve Jobs, Grant Cardone, I loved, he said this when we were at GrowthCon. He said, I'm not even thinking about what legacy Grant Cardone is going to have in the next 100 years. He's like, what are people going to say about Grant 1,000 years from now? Like, who are some people that we talk about thousands of years later?
Alexander the Great.
Alexander the Great. Julius Caesar, Jesus, Buddha, Moses, bless you. And think about this. There's people that we talk about thousands of years later. Like, nobody's going to know who Michael Jordan is 1,000 years from now. They're not. Can you name the greatest gladiator of all time? We don't know. You laugh about it, but this is what we think about. Who is the greatest gladiator of all time? Like, we don't know. Who is the greatest Spartan? We don't know. Who are these people? We don't know these people. The people that you remember and that we talk about are people that changed the course of history. And we're not here we're going to make a lot of money in the process. But that's also not, like, if that's what you're here for, that's why you're not making money. Because that's not what I'm here for. I'm here because of this, and I happen to receive a lot of income because this is what I believe in. So when somebody says to me, I don't think life insurance is the right thing for me at the time, I have it in my gut. Bro, we're not talking about life insurance here. We're talking about abolishing the Federal Reserve. It's a totally different conversation. And if somebody doesn't know about this, then they're not the client for you. Right? But it's your job, it's our job as practitioners, as people that know about this, to be spreading the word about it. Right? Jesus sent out the 12 disciples in different areas to go talk about this. I imagine us going and running events so that when Lexi puts 9 events, she actually did go to 9 events. She spoke at 9 different schools in the same day, back to back to back, teaching kids about this so that they can change the future. That's why I do this. It is not to make a lot of money. I happen to make a lot of money because I believe in the vision. It is a reverse of what you think in your brain. And the more that you're here because of money, the less money you will receive.